Hey gamers, welcome back to the ultimate hub for all things gaming. Today, we're diving into the next-gen hype train with a sneak peek at the hottest upcoming games that are about to blow your minds. Whether you're stoked for epic open-world adventures, heart-pounding shooters, or mind-bending RPGs, we've got the lowdown on what's dropping soon. Grab your snacks, gear up, and let's get ready to explore these fresh releases that'll have you grinding for hours. Hit that subscribe button, and let's jump into the future of gaming. Shadows of Doubt is a first-person perspective mashup of detective adventure and stealth gameplay. The game's set in a vibrant city where every building is fully explorable, and each citizen is unique, with their own quirks, personalities, and daily routines. The story drops you into an alternate, heavily industrialized 1980s, set in a gritty metropolis where the cops have been privatized, with their duties handed over to corporations and freelance contractors. You play as one of these investigators on the hunt for a serial killer who's been wreaking havoc in the city, aiming to cash in on the bounty. As you dig deeper, you uncover a ton of other secrets lurking in the shadows. Shadows of Doubt blends detective adventure with stealth mechanics, all through a first-person lens. You'll explore the city, break into locked rooms, sneak into restricted areas, chat up NPCs, and gather clues. The city's an open-world playground, with every building and room just waiting for you to snoop around in. The residents are powered by advanced AI, with their own needs, friends, hangouts, and daily routines that you'll need to work around. For example, if you're planning to break into someone's pad, you'll want to do it while they're grinding away at work. Visually, the game stands out with its mix of fully 3D graphics done in an old school or a pixelated style. Simple models and pixel textures are paired with modern lighting effects to create a unique look. A lot of things in Shadows of Doubt, like character traits and even some quests, are procedurally generated. But there's also a ton of handcrafted content, giving the game rich, detailed plot lines while keeping the gameplay fresh and unpredictable. The fourth installment of the cult action game series, set as a prequel in early 20th century Sicily. Mafia: The Old Country is the latest entry in the iconic gangster action series that kicked off in 2002. This time, the game takes us back to Sicily at the dawn of the 20th century. Developed by Hangar 13, the studio behind Mafia 3, and the 2020 remake of the original game, this title takes a different approach. Instead of using the proprietary Illusion engine, they've leveled up to Unreal Engine 5 for this project. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 drops us into a story campaign set in the early 90s, right after the Cold War wrapped up. It's a direct sequel to the events from Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War and throws in some flashbacks to the 80s, similar to what we saw in Call of Duty Black Ops 2. The campaign is all about that spy thriller vibe, bringing back fan-favorite characters like Frank Woods and Russell Adler, while introducing new faces like Troy Marshall and Jane Harrow. Chasing down a global political conspiracy, you'll find yourself in some epic locations, from the icy Russian tundra to the scorching deserts of the Middle East, Southern Europe, and the US. You'll be running missions where you'll need to mix stealth with all-out action, taking part in jaw-dropping set pieces and intense firefights. You'll have a loadout straight out of late 80s action flicks, packed with weapons and gadgets that'll make you feel like a total badass. Between missions, you'll head back to your hideout, a central hub where you can dig deeper into the story, upgrade your gear, crack some puzzles, and choose your next move. Just like in the earlier titles, Age of History 3.3 has you leading your chosen nation from the dawn of civilization to the far future. Each nation comes with its own set of perks and drawbacks, so you'll need to strategize to crush the competition. The game's turn-based, so you'll be running the whole nation with the help of your trusty advisors. You'll be managing the economy, gathering resources, constructing buildings, and researching new tech. You'll also need to establish laws and deal with religious matters. Handling diplomacy with other civs is crucial, but let's be real. No matter how good you are at playing nice, sooner or later, you're gonna have to throw down. The new combat system splits your armies into two front lines, letting you position your heavy hitters up front while keeping your ranged units like archers in the back for support. When gearing up for war, you've got to keep manpower in mind. It dictates how many troops you can draft. Manpower takes time to replenish as your population grows, so even if you win battles, there'll be losses. Pick your fights wisely. the remake of the iconic 2001 RPG developed by Alchemia Interactive, a studio under THQ Nordic. The Gothic Remake cranks up the original with completely overhauled gameplay mechanics and a massive graphics upgrade, all thanks to Unreal Engine 5. Gothic throws you into the fantasy kingdom of Myrtana, where the king, Robar II, set up a penal colony on the island of Corinus. The unlucky convicts sent there are forced to grind out ore in what's called the Mine Valley. To keep these prisoners from making a break for it, the mages whipped up a barrier that's one way only. Nothing in, nothing out. But as magic often does, things went sideways. The spell spun out of control, trapping not just the convicts, but also the guards, the mages, and some dark, lurking evil within the dome. You step into the boots of a nameless prisoner who's just been dumped into the colony. But it doesn't take long to realize you're destined for something way bigger than just digging for ore. Gothic's action plays out from a third-person perspective. The game gives you a decently sized open world to explore, filled with ore digger camps, mines, an orc village, and plenty of ruins. The story's got some flexibility. You choose which faction to roll with, and that choice can steer the main plot. Alongside the main quests, there are loads of side missions waiting to be tackled. The game world's no cakewalk. Besides hostile prisoners, you're up against monsters. Early on, you're squaring off against the local wildlife. Think wolves, oversized beetles, and scavengers. But as you level up, so do your enemies, bringing in tougher baddies like skeletons, orcs, and demons. Combat is fast-paced and brutal, with a mix of melee weapons, one- and two-handed swords, axes, hammers, ranged gear, crossbows, bows, and a variety of offensive and defensive spells at your disposal. Big Ambitions blends RPG elements with economic strategy, throwing you into the grind of building a business empire. You'll need to juggle hustling hard and keeping your character in top shape. In this game, you're a New Yorker starting out with just a rented apartment and your first gig. Your mission? To climb the ranks and become the richest person in the city. You'll begin by launching small businesses and growing them into corporate giants. Whether you're setting up gift shops, liquor stores, clothing boutiques, supermarkets, law firms, or even florists, the game's got you covered. Big Ambitions features deep business management mechanics that are the backbone of any solid economic strategy game. You'll be taking out loans, crafting logos, securing prime office locations, recruiting staff, and building up your business infrastructure. As your empire expands, you'll need to bring on board logistics and HR managers, sales reps, and get their workspaces up and running. The gameplay is a mix of sim and RPG vibes, so you'll be getting hands-on with a lot of activities. Just about every building in the game is up for grabs, and your hard-earned cash isn't just for business, it's also for leveling up your character's lifestyle. But remember, your character isn't some unfeeling machine that can grind 24/7. You've got to manage their sleep and health if you want to keep the momentum going. An FPP action RPG by Obsidian Entertainment, Avowed is set in the world of Eora, in a realm called the Living Lands. You play as an envoy from the S.T.A.L.K.E.R Empire, sent to dig into a mysterious plague. Avowed drops you into the fantasy world of Eora, known from Pillars of Eternity. Specifically, you'll be exploring a wild, mostly uncharted region called the Living Lands. While the game throws in some Easter eggs from Pillars of Eternity, hardcore fans will recognize certain locations, characters, and factions. You don't need to be a lore expert to enjoy the story. You roll as an envoy of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R Empire, landing in the Living Lands to figure out what's behind this strange plague. But heads up, most of the locals aren't thrilled about you being there. Luckily, not everyone's hostile. Your main homie is Kai, an Omawa ex-soldier turned merc. Avowed is a first-person game. Before you dive in, you'll need to create your character. The game's world isn't fully open world, but features several diverse, open areas that you can explore at your own pace. Expect a solid mix of main story missions, plus a ton of side quests and extra activities to keep you busy. As you journey through bustling harbor cities and lush, overgrown landscapes, you'll run into a variety of enemies. These include sentient baddies, aggressive wildlife, and even deadly plants. Combat is fast and frenetic, letting you flex your skills with magic, melee weapons like swords and shields, and ranged gear like bows or guns. The Stomping Land is a third-person action survival game where you drop into a brutal world as a member of a primitive tribe, armed mostly with a bow and a deep hunger for dino meat. It's all about survival of the fittest, with a side of epic dino hunting. Your mission? Stay alive by munching on dinosaur meat. Sounds easy, right? Not so fast. Sure, there are plenty of small dinos on the island for you to take down, but those massive carnivores? Yeah, they're a whole different beast, practically unkillable at first, and always ready to ruin your day by hogging all the food. You begin as a bit of a noob, weak, ineffective, and generally not equipped for the chaos around you. But don't sweat it. As you scavenge resources from the world, you'll unlock tools and skills that'll level you up into a legit hunter. With the right gear and tactics, you'll either take down those massive predators or find smarter ways to fill your belly. Some pro strats include setting traps to wound the big boys, farming the smaller dinos like a boss, raiding other players' camps and stealing their grub. Rolling with a squad pays off big time. Working together makes hunting easier, and with enough muscle you can set up campsites to stash your meat. Storing up a massive haul of meat unlocks special abilities for your crew. But here's the catch. The more meat your tribe stores, the fewer dinos there are left to hunt. That means rival tribes will be gunning for your camps, ready to raid and destroy everything you've built. The endgame? Be the top tribe on the island, dominating everyone else. Mechabellum is an auto-battler where you take command of sick mech squads. This game lets you mess around with a bunch of different machines to build killer squads and drop them into the battlefield, where they duke it out in fully automatic combat. Set in a sci-fi world, Mechabellum takes place on a freshly colonized planet called Far Away. You step into the shoes of a mech squadron commander, gunning for dominance by taking on rivals and grabbing as much territory as you can. The core gameplay revolves around mech-on-mech battles. Each mech has its own pros and cons, so you've got to squad up strategically to make sure your units sync well together. You can also tweak each mech's loadout to fit your playstyle. Whether you prefer quick, fragile units like the Wasp Fighter or heavy-hitting tanks like the massive Vulcan, there's a play for every approach. Once you've built your dream team, it's time to deploy and let the battle begin. You can't micromanage the mechs, but you can still turn the tide by calling in airstrikes or unleashing swarms of mini-bots as reinforcements. Get ready to dive into the 13th main chapter of the Assassin's Creed saga, AC Shadows. Set in feudal Japan, 1579, this game drops you into the thick of the Sengoku period, where you'll get to play as the black samurai Yasuke or the female shinobi Naoe. It's a single-player grind, but with a massive open-world setup that'll keep you exploring for hours. Like the previous AC titles, Shadows throws you right into the age-old beef between the Brotherhood of Assassins and the Templar Order. The story takes you on a wild ride through the rich historical tapestry of feudal Japan. The game kicks off in 1579 during the late Sengoku period, also known as Azuchi Momoyama. This era isn't just about hardcore battles, it's a time of massive social upheaval, the rise of new religious movements, and a booming artistic scene, all wrapped up in the unification of the country. You'll run into the legendary Nobunaga Oda, who played a major role during these times. Along your journey, you'll also cross paths with other historical heavyweights like Fujibayashi Nagato, the master ninja of the Iga clan, and of course, Yasuke, who made history as Nobunaga Oda's badass black retainer. The game's open world is on par with the massive scale of Egypt in Assassin's Creed Origins. The map covers central Japan, split into 3 main regions, Arima, Iga, and Omi. You'll get to experience the full cycle of day and night, along with changing weather conditions and seasons. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter all roll in as the story progresses, and they're not just for show. These seasons impact the look of the world and your gameplay. For instance, you can only sneak through thick bushes and swim in rivers during spring and summer, while in winter, icicles hanging from rooftops might give away your position if you're not careful. Age of Mythology Retold is the ultimate throwback, remaking the classic 2002 RTS from the crew behind the legendary Age of Empires series. You're thrown into the epic clashes of 4 different factions, where not only armies but also mythical beasts and ancient gods are duking it out. This revamped version brings the game into the modern era with upgraded graphics, a slick new UI, and tons of quality of life improvements that'll make both OG fans and new players feel right at home. In Age of Mythology Retold, you're running the show in real time, managing everything from your cities and armies to gathering resources and building up your base. But it's not just about economy and military might. Your choice of gods plays a huge role too. You'll be repping one of the big 4, Greeks, Egyptians, Norse, or Atlanteans, each with their own unique pantheon. Depending on which gods you roll with, you can unleash devastating offensive powers like quakes, lightning storms, or even call in the dragon Nidhogg. Or if you're more of a support player, you can summon rains to boost your crops, or call on dryads to back up your forces. And don't forget to beef up your army with mythical units like Cyclops, Pegasus, Medusa, or Cerberus. Minor deities also join the fray, and their abilities can tip the scales in any battle. The Remake's campaign is a beast, packing 50 missions that'll have you journeying through ancient lands. From the legendary Siege of Troy to skirmishes in Midgard's wastelands and uncovering the mysteries of Egypt, it's a full-on ride through history and myth. 6 Days in Fallujah is a no-holds-barred, hyper-realistic action game that throws you straight into the chaos of the infamous Fallujah battle. The devs went all out to nail the authenticity, staying neutral and not picking sides in this intense conflict. This third-person shooter brings you face-to-face with the gritty realities of the Iraq War, zooming in on the brutal six-day fight for Fallujah. Atomic Games, the studio behind this, dug deep into real-life footage, photos, soldier diaries, and even sat down with Marines who were in the thick of it to make sure they got every detail right. In-game, you squad up as one of the 4 Marines in your unit, navigating the harsh, claustrophobic streets of Fallujah. The realism is off the charts. Every encounter feels authentic, from the way the Iraqi insurgents, civilians, and US soldiers react in the heat of battle, to the advanced physics engine that makes the environment destructible. And when it comes to firepower, you're only packing the same weapons the Marines had during this bloody showdown. Grimlore Games is back with their second title after the hit Spellforce 3, and this time they're dropping us into an action-packed RPG known as Project Minerva. Still rocking that top-down view, but now with a sprawling open world, this game throws you into a universe that's dripping with ancient vibes. The devs pulled out all the stops, fueled by some serious backing, including funds from the Deutscher Games funds. If you're into epic journeys through worlds inspired by antiquity, Project Minerva is going to be your next grind. Mirthwood is like the ultimate mashup between an RPG and a life sim, set in a medieval fantasy world. Whether you want to be an adventurer, run a farm, or focus on crafting and trading, Mirthwood's got you covered. In this game, you're a refugee from a war-torn continent, starting fresh in a new land. How you roll in this new life is totally up to you. Your actions and choices drive the story. Mirthwood uses a top-down view, dropping you into an open world with 6 distinct regions and 3 massive cities. As you explore, you'll meet NPCs, tackle quests, and get caught up in random events that keep the gameplay fresh. The game gives you the freedom to choose your own adventure. You could go full-on farmer, gathering resources, building your crib, cultivating the land, and raising animals. Or maybe you're more into crafting. Start a side hustle making and selling gear for some extra coin. But if you're feeling brave, you can dive into the adventuring life, taking on the wilds and battling all kinds of baddies, from bandits to monsters like werewolves. Level up, gear up, and face increasingly tougher challenges as you progress. Commandos Origins is the 4th main title in the Commandos series, excluding spin-offs and remasters. Developed by Claymore Game Studios and published by Calypso Media. Like the OG3, it's a tactical strategy game. In Commandos Origins, you'll be playing from a top-down view, navigating through various missions in different zones, from the sunny landscapes of Africa and the frozen wastelands of the Arctic to the war-torn fields of Western Europe and the brutal Eastern Front. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, involves taking down enemy outposts, pulling off sabotage, and executing rescue ops. And hey, there are plenty of side quests too if you're feeling extra ambitious. While you could go in guns blazing, you'll quickly realize that the enemy has you outnumbered big time, so stealth is your best friend. Plan your moves based on enemy patrols and your squad's unique skills. Each commando has their own combat style and abilities, and to win, you'll need to sync them up like a well-oiled machine. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 is a sick blend of an FPS, immersive sim, and survival horror game, all while being the legit second entry in the series that kicked off back in 2007. The mix of a dope storyline with challenging as hell gameplay put the devs of the original game on the map, making bank. But gamers had to wait forever for the official sequel. Just like the OG, this sequel was crafted by the Ukrainian studio GSC Game World. The story in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 drags players back to the eerie corners of the Zone, a massive area around the nuclear plant, where a catastrophic meltdown in 1986 led to one of the worst ecological disasters ever. But the devs decided to remix the real Zone, making it even more nightmarish and fascinating by adding warring factions, killer mutants, and insanely dangerous anomalies. You step into the boots of a lone stalker named Skiff. After yet another explosion hits the reactor in 2006, a gnarly energy source pops up at the heart of the Zone. Skiff crosses into the Zone solo to figure out the mystery behind this strange power. But how this run goes down is all on you. The story's got that non-linear vibe, meaning your choices shape how things play out and what ending you'll get. It's also worth noting that S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 isn't directly connected to the plots of the previous games in the series. A free-to-play first-person shooter from Teamy Studios, the same crew behind Call of Duty Mobile. This game reboots Delta Force and draws inspiration from Ridley Scott's Black Hawk Down. It's packed with a story campaign and tons of multiplayer modes. The cinematic single-player campaign is a few hours of intense action inspired by Ridley Scott's iconic 2001 film, similar to Delta Force Black Hawk Down. Set in 2035 in Mogadishu, Somalia's capital, it features gritty street battles and night ops. Fans of Delta Force will also see a bunch of familiar faces. One of the main multiplayer modes is Hazard Operations. This mode is all about fighting for valuable loot and resources against AI enemies and other players. Players form up into three-person squads, each with different classes and gear. The goal is to capture objectives, take out opponents, and then make a clean getaway. You can either head for the evacuation point or find another exit for extra rewards. Another multiplayer mode is Havoc Warfare. These massive battles unfold on land, sea, and air across huge maps that support over 32 players. Teams alternate between attacking and defending key checkpoints. You can jump into assault vehicles, armored rigs, off-roaders, helicopters, boats, and drones. The game transports us to feudal Japan. At the start, the land of the cherry blossom is in ruins from famine and wars. Your hero heads to the legendary peasant's kingdom to rebuild his home and secure his family's future. Sengoku Dynasty immerses you in medieval Japan by blending survival, action RPG, and simulation elements. Experience everything from a first-person view in a massive open world, offering tons of freedom for exploration. Your mission is to gather resources and expand your settlement. As you progress, new inhabitants will move in, and over time, your settlement can grow into a bustling city. Building multiple metropolises is possible, though it's no walk in the park. The game features deep gameplay mechanics. With the crafting and building system, you'll need to produce tools, weapons, food, and medicine. Farming is essential too. You'll also manage your family and settlers, developing their skills. Eventually, your hero will pass away, but if you have a descendant, you can pick up the game as them. Combat is crucial, whether against animals or other people. Weapons include spears, swords, bows, and firearms. Master each weapon type to craft and use them effectively in battles.